يا الله، السلام عليكم طلاب الصف الثالث.
وعليكم السلام دكتور.
الله يسلمك.
دكتور بس ولو زحمة عليك دقيقة دقيقتين على ما تجي الطلاب.
اوكي.
نعم دكتور رحم الله والديك.
السلام عليكم أبناء الطلبة ورحمة الله وبركاته. قبل ما نبدأ المحاضرة إن شاء الله، اللي عنده أي ملاحظات على المحاضرة من ناحية اللغة مالتها بالإنجليزي أو بعض المصطلحات اللي ما راح تكون يعني واضحة عندكم، ممكن نهاية المحاضرة راح نعطي مجال إن شاء الله وعندنا وقت للنقاش أو للشرح التفصيلي أكثر إن شاء الله. في حالة أنه الطالب عنده استفسارات معينة ممكن يدونها في ورقة معينة بسيطة يمه، زين، حتى لا ينساها. وأتمنى أن تكون ملاحظات مهمة بالمحاضرة نفسها، وتكون مختصرة بصورة مختصرة، وأنا إن شاء الله أعطي التفاصيل مالتها. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أبناء الطلبة، I would like to speak to you in this lecture by I want to speak about the finishing lines. This is the subject of our lecture. The finishing lines, if we want to define the finishing line, it is not a line, it is a margin. It is named a line, but it's really a margin or a junction. This junction is going to separate between the cut part of the tooth or the prepared part of the tooth and the left part, which is unprepared or sound tooth structure. So it is really a demarcation between two parts of the abutment tooth. This finishing line must have the following properties. It must be smooth, it is not irregular, and it must be continuous from one surface to the other. There is no any cut or disconnection in the continuity of the surface of the finishing line, because this disappearance of the finishing line on any part of the prepared tooth, it will lead to what? To an interference in the seating of the crown on the abutment tooth. So if you look to the picture, you will see that one of the teeth, the right one, has a clear finishing line. It is smooth, it has not any irregularity, and is continuous from the labial to the proximal and so on until it reaches to the lingual. While the other one, in our vision, we are not going to see any demarcation. So it will be difficult for the dentist to put his margin of the crown on any part of the tooth. So we must have an end to our preparation, and this is the finishing line. So for this reason we call it finishing. We are going to finish our crown seating on this line. The first type, we will start discussing the finishing lines starting from the smallest or the weakest type. Feather or knife edge. It's always said knife edge. It is just like the knife edge. It is very tiny junction between the prepared and non-prepared part of the tooth, and it is done or prepared by using pointed and tapered fissure burr. And it is created or done by what? By removing very little amount of the tooth structure. So it is considered as the most conservative type of the finishing lines. And it is require, as we said, the little removal of the tooth structure. For this reason, this margin, it will be a weak margin. It is not clear to your eyes. For this reason, it will have this disadvantage of what? Of difficult to be detected on the tooth. And when we take the impression and pour our cast, it will be not clear. So we are going to shift to more prominent finishing line to make it possible to see it on the tooth structure and on the cast. This type of finishing line, it is indicated. I will pass the last line about the burnishing. I will discuss the burnishing of the margin. It is indicated for what? For full metal crown, which is the complete crown. That means where the metal all around the tooth, and for this reason the knife edge will be prepared on all these surfaces because we are going to cover the tooth with a metal. Again, for partial veneer or a 3/4 crown, we are going to cover the whole crown with metal. We will not have any ceramic or any facing for the 3/4 crown because we leave the natural tooth on the labial or buccal, and we does not need any use of tooth coloring material. So the rest of the crown will be made from metal, and for this reason knife edge finishing line may be used here. If we return back to the previous slide, we will see that the metal margin of this type of finishing line can be burnished on this type of finishing line. What does it mean? That means the crown metal margin will be adapted. Burnished, it is, or burnishing, it is a term used for metal only. Be careful and notice that burnishing, it is used for metal crowns only because this burnishing, it is the adaptation. We can change the type of the margin into more adapted margin on the tooth structure by doing burnishing, by thinning, by making the margin thin and thin and thin until we can press it by an instrument or any way on the margin. This is, we call it the burnishing. Burnishing means adapting the metal margin on the tooth structure. Whenever the margin is thin, we can press it and adapt it on the tooth structure or the finishing line margin. Now, the second type of finishing line, which is more prominent because we are going to remove more tooth structure, and we change the type of burr. Here it is not a pointed tapered fissure burr. Here we use a rounded end finishing line, and here the junction will be clear, more prominent, because we cut more from the tooth structure and we create a chamfer finishing line. Chamfer finishing line, it is more clear finishing line. It has an angle of 135 degrees from the angle of the prepared wall. So it is not a sharp angle. This margin has an inclination. If you look to the pictures below, you will see that the margin or the chamfer, it is inclined. It is not a sharp angle between. There is no sharp angle between the margin finishing line and the wall or prepared wall. It is prepared by rounded end tapered tapered burr. Here again, due to the inclination, the angulation of the chamfer, which will end with a knife edge, due to this inclination or due to this angulation, the chamfer again will end into a sharp end. This end make it possible for the metal crown to be burnished on the chamfer finishing line. So knife edge finishing line and chamfer, they are used for metal crown margins. Whenever we want to put metal margin of the crown, we can do what? We can do chamfer or knife edge finishing line. It is more prominent. We cut more from the tooth structure and we use a new type of burr. Again, it is the preferred gingival finishing line for full veneer of metal. Again, full metal crown. And this finishing line, it will have more support on the tooth structure because of its width. It is wider than the knife edge, so it will give more attachment of the crown on the tooth structure, and it will have least stress on the underlying cement because of its way of preparation. It can be cut with the round taper burr, as we said, and it is considered conservative when we compare it with the next finishing line. We call it the shoulder. The shoulder, it is a big joint and need more preparation. So it is middle between the knife edge and shoulder finishing line, and it is used for metal margins of crown. So it is indicated for cast metal crowns. Again, we repeat this statement. Now, the instruments which made this finishing line, as we said, it is tapered stone or diamond burr with round end. Look to this picture. When we press half of this burr into the surface, we will create a chamfer finishing line or chamfer-like finishing line. It is very important to avoid pressing all the tapered burr. Otherwise, we will create an unsupported lip or margin on the finishing line. Right? The picture show you that half of the burr will be enough to prepare a finishing line of chamfer. This is the same indication you can see that we repeat the same indications like the knife edge finishing line. The shoulder, this is the third type of finishing line. Look to the pictures, it is of an upper preparation. You will see that the red part of the picture, it is the it is the crown part, and you will see that there is a big removal of the tooth structure, and we create a step, or we call it butt joint. Butt joint means a sharp angled shoulder, and this butt joint, it is created by what? By removing excessive amount of the surface or the tooth structure, and it is prepared here. The bear, this statement, I will say it, but it is not written in my lecture. It is prepared by a flat-ended finishing line. Sorry, a flat-ended bear. It is not rounded. It is a flat-ended to create a flat butt joint shoulder. So this shoulder, it is used where? When we use non-metallic margins of crown, like when we use a jacket crown, full porcelain or all porcelain crown, or all acrylic resin crown, and they require what? Require more space on the tooth structure for two reasons. The first one, we need to make it stronger. When we making the crown thicker, we will have a stronger crown. And if we have more or thicker crown or ceramic layer, we can be able to adapt, or we can provide better shade or color for the ceramic, because we can put many layers, layer on layer, layer on layer. We can manage the color of the natural tooth structure with the ceramic by this amount of reduction. When we remove more from the tooth structure, we can repeat the crown with a big thickness, and this thickness will make it possible to adjust the color of the crown. So it needs more and excessive reduction from the tooth structure. The shoulder finishing line, it is used for full ceramic or porcelain label margins, right? The wide finishing line, and in such an angle, which is the butt joint or sharp angle, and it is nearly 90-degree angulation between the wall and the finishing line. It will make it a good resistance for the crown to resist the occlusal surface. Okay. So, as we said, ceramic material, when we want to do full ceramic restoration or crown on the tooth, the full ceramic material will be weak, and there is a possibility of fracture. This wide shoulder finishing line make it possible to support the crown against the occlusal forces, and this will lead to a resistance of the crown to the fracture. It produces the space for healthy restoration, contours, and maximum aesthetic. Two reasons for doing such a finishing line and big removal of the tooth structure. We can have a strong restoration. A word healthy, it means strong, and it will last for a long time. And maximum aesthetic, because we can, as we said, we can adapt the color of the crown according to the color of the natural patient or natural tooth structure to have a nice aesthetic. What are the disadvantages of the preparation of such a shoulder finishing line? As we said, it needs destruction or more destruction of the tooth structure because of heavy cutting from the sound tooth structure to give such a finishing line. And some claim that the presence of sharp angle, you look to this picture and you see that the shoulder with the wall has a sharp angle, and this may lead to what? An internal stress concentration on the tooth structure. If it has any weakness, it may lead to what? To a fracture of the tooth structure in the future. So there is a modification of this shoulder nowadays to make this sharp angle changed into a round internal line angle by changing the shoulder into a rounded shoulder or internal line angle shoulder to avoid any presence of stress concentration in the tooth structure. This is a picture of a cast after taking the impression to the case. You see the shoulder, which is prepared for all ceramic restoration, and you will see the big removal of the tooth structure, and you will see the width of the shoulder all around, which lead to what? To an excessive removal of the tooth structure. So it is indicated whenever we want to use all ceramic restoration or crown on the teeth. Now, the chamfer is indicated for metal crowns, and you know that the metal, it is sorry, the metal is a strong material. Ceramic is a brittle material. We want the metal for strength and ceramic for aesthetic. If we want to have both requirements, strength and aesthetic, so we will shift to a mixed type of preparation. Here we do the shoulder in the ordinary way with a sharp angle. The edge of this shoulder, it is 90 degrees with the tooth structure. And after we finish from the preparation of shoulder, we are going to do a bevel. What do we mean a bevel? It is a 45-degree cut. This bevel will lead to create a new finishing line. We call it the bevel shoulder or beveled shoulder. It is a mixture between the shoulder, which will provide excessive thickness for the crown, and we can put a metal below the ceramic to create what? To create a finishing line just like the chamfer. If you look to the angulation of the bevel, it is nearly like the chamfer. So this bevel shoulder, it is a finishing line which is mixed between the shoulder and the chamfer. So here we can put a metal, and this metal will be burnished on the beveled margin like the chamfer or knife edge, and then The rest of the space, we can cover it with a ceramic material. So we gain two things. We have a metallic base of crown to be a stronger crown, and we can cover the metal with ceramic material with an enough thickness to give the required shade or the color of the natural tooth. It is very commonly used, this bevel shoulder finishing line. It is widely used whenever we use metal ceramic crown or ceramic fused to metal crowns. Bevel shoulder, it needs enough space. Again, it is not conservative finishing line because we are going to cut more from the tooth structure. Again, the burnishing of the margin, it is possible to burnish the margin because the end of our preparation is a bevel, and this bevel make it possible for the metal to be burnished on the tooth structure margin. Bevel shoulder is used on the labial surface of the crowns whenever we want to do a facing. That means when we have a the ceramic is going to be put on the labial surface only. What do we mean? That means if it is an excessive cutting finishing line and we want to be conservative, what we are going to do? We are going to make the labial surface having only the ceramic, and the other surfaces will be left metallic. So the beveled shoulder finishing line will be only prepared on the labial or buccal surface, while the other surfaces of the crown will be prepared as a chamfer or knife edge finishing lines. It will be more conservative than the all ceramic restoration because you cannot do any type of finishing line, just a shoulder when we have all ceramic restoration. So even it is an excessive reduction knife edge forming, but we can use it only on the labial to be more conservative. It is very commonly used finishing line when we have a posterior or anterior restoration. This picture shows you the general types of finishing lines, and you are going to see the angulation of the finishing lines: 180, 135, 135, the bevel shoulder, just like the chamfer. You look to the second and third finishing lines, they are considered as chamfers, but it is a bevel shoulder, and the shoulder is a 90-degree finishing line. This picture of a microscopic viewing of the margins of the finishing line, the upper finishing lines, the left is knife edge. You see the little amount of tooth removal. The right one is the chamfer. You see the inclination of the finishing line. This is another chamfer. In the middle left, you will see that it is straight, not rounded here. In the upper one, in upper chamfer, it is curved, but here it is flat, and they are used for a different way, but for metallic restoration. The shoulder, this is two pictures of shoulder, and the last picture, which is the lower right one, you see two planes finishing line or margin. We have the shoulder and its bevel like the chamfer. Now, where we are going to put our finishing lines in relation to the gingiva or the gingival tissue. We have three types of finishing lines, or three possibilities of placement of margins on the tooth structure according to the relation to the gingiva. Either it is above the gingiva, just like in our picture, the finishing line, it is supragingival, it is above the gingiva, and it has certain disadvantages and some advantages. Or it may be with the level of the gingiva, we call it equigingival finishing line, or it is going to be hidden below the gingiva and we call it the subgingival finishing line. It is a rule, or it is a way of keeping as much as possible. We keep the finishing line supragingivally whenever possible. The most important factor to hide the finishing line is the aesthetic. So whenever we work posteriorly or the condition of the patient does not show a finishing line, we can put it supragingivally. For what reasons? We are going to see the reasons. The subgingival finishing line, why we put the finishing line below the gingiva? First of all, if we have a problem in the cementum or the enamel margins of the tooth, there is a erosion, there is a problem of erosion or sensitivity or caries. It make it it will make it sure for us to extend our margin away from the caries or the erosion area, and this will emphasize putting the gingival or finishing line subgingivally. Again, if the proximal contact area, we must open the contact area between the adjacent teeth, and this contact, it is a long contact. It is extend subgingivally, or one or both of the teeth, they are not completely immersed in the oral cavity. They are submerged, we call it submerged. They are not extended in the cavity or the cervical line or the root. It is not completely erupted in the oral cavity. This make it a fact for putting the finishing line subgingivally. Again, if we want to make an additional retention or increase our retention, because the longer the preparation, more retention will be having. So if we want to have more aesthetic and we keep the finishing line away from the eyes when we work anteriorly, and especially in the labial surfaces, it is better to hide the finishing line below the gingiva for more aesthetic. And if there is a root sensitivity in the cervical area or in the cementum area or in the cervical line area, it's better to extend away from this sensitive area to go beyond this area and go subgingivally. Now, for the supragingival finishing line, why we place our margin above the gingiva? What are the advantages of doing supragingival finishing line? As we said, as much as possible, we must put our margin supragingivally because it is cleansable. The brush, it is very easily can pass over this margin and clean it away. Again, it provides good vision for the dentist during preparation. He will not work below the gingiva, and this will be difficult for the patient to see the finishing line below the gingiva. So it is very easily for the dentist to do supragingival finishing line, and it is very easy to be prepared. Easy to be finished if we want to finish the finishing line and do smoothing and so on. It's easy to take impression because the impression material will be difficult to enter below the gingiva. So the supragingival finishing line will have recorded easily by the impression material because the gingiva will not object on the impression material to be recording the finishing line. And again, it is less destructive because its preparation require less cutting of the tooth structure. This is nearly talking about finishing line, and I will at the end of my lecture, I want to discuss to you the term of burnishing. Before you ask me, I will say it in Arabic. كلمة burnishing بالمصطلح اللغة العربية تسمى بعملية صقل الأشياء. احنا في حالة عملية صناعة الكراون من المعدن، نحاول قدر المستطاع أن تكون مارجن الكراون مضغوطة بصورة متقنة حول الفينيشنج لاين أو حول نهاية البريباريشن مالتنا. إذا من أجل أنه أحصل على هاي الخاصية للكراون، إيش راح أسوي؟ راح أسوي عملية بيرنشنج. عملية البيرنشنج هي عملية الأخذ المتدرج من المعدن، يعني نحاول نمر بالأداة مالتنا، أداة القطع، نمررها على الفينيشنج لاين أو على المارجن مال الكراون إلى أن تبدأ الحافة النهائية للمارجن تصبح رقيقة. عندما تصبح رقيقة أو عندما يكون المعدن رقيق ستكون له القابلية على الانضغاط. إذن بهذه الحالة عندما أصبحت المارجن مال الكراون مالتنا رقيقة إلى درجة نحاول أن نضغطها على السن بحيث شنو؟ راح يحكم إجلاسها على السن أو على التوث ستراكشر. هذه هي عملية البيرنشنج. ومثل ما قلنا بالمحاضرة 3 فينيشنج لاينز اللي هي لها علاقة بالمعادن، النايف ايج والشامفر والبيفل شولدر، اللي هي ال3 انواع اللي ممكن يكون تتغطى بالمعدن. وثلاثتهن نستطيع بسبب شكل الفينيشنج لاين اللي هو متدرج. اذا ترجعون للصور مال المحاضرة راح تشوفون انه الفينيشنج لاين متدرج، مو مثل الشولدر كله قطعة واحدة والمادة مال الكراون كلها ثخن واحد. بينما بالنسبة للشامفر والفينيشنج النايف ايج والبيفل شولدر راح تكون متدرجة على شكل الى ان تنتهي بجزء مدبب جدا. وهذا الجزء المدبب احنا راح نحاول نستفاد من عنده في انه نضغطه على السن من اجل نحصل على غلق للمارجن مال الكراون حول السن. ارجو ان تكون هذا الكلام بالعربي او اوضح لكم بعض الملاحظات اللي تتعلق بالبيرنشنج of the finishing line. انتظر من عندكم الملاحظات مالتكم والاسئله اذا تحتاجون اسئله. نور اسمع منك. نور اذا عندك شيء سؤال.
والله دكتور تسمعني مو منيح.
نور اعذرني انا اعتذر من عندك. نور الحسن انت. نور الحسن. نعم. عفوا نور تفضل. نعم.
والله دكتور يعني المحاضرة مو كلش يعني ما فهمت يعني شوي شرح إنجليزي غالب على العربي.
نعم. اي يعني المصطلح اللي هو تقريبا المصطلح اللي هو صعب عليكم حولناه على على العربي وشرحته بنهاية المحاضرة، ومع ذلك اسمع من عندك الان دا تتكلم بالعربي، ممكن اسمع من عندك اي شيء شنو اللي ما فهمته.
تقريبا مو كلش يعني دكتور، هذا شوي راجع مو كلش.
انت ارجع للمحاضرة اسمعها مرة ثانية زين، واحنا
يعني
قلنا اذا بعض الملاحظات
دكتور
اذا
توضح لنا كل سلايد توضح لنا بالعربي، يعني تشرح بالإنجليزي يعني أحسن، عم تبسط
المشكلة
علينا.
شوف ابني، اكيد زملائك هم يسمعوني،
مم.
اني ما اقدر اشرح بالعربي لانه انا ما اعرف شنو اللي انت ما افتهمته باللغة الانجليزية، صح ولا مو صح؟ فما اقدر انا اشرح لك المحاضرة مالتي كلها بالعربي، ولا اعرف انا ايش وقت الجزء اللي راح تفتهمه او ما تفهمه. شنو اللي
إيه
ما افتهمته بس قول لي هسه شنو اللي ما افتهمته بالمحاضرة؟
دكتور، يعني أنت من بداية المحاضرة تسوي ميوت للطلاب، يعني ما نفهم شيء نقدر نبلغك هاي.
ها عفوا اكو صوتك مو كلش واضح علي. ايه
ايه دكتور، انت من بدايه المحاضره تقول شو اسمه تسوي ميوت للطلاب، احنا المفروض من ما نفهم شيء نقدر نبلغك من طريق المايك، لان انت ما قاعد تشوف الشات مالتنا
اي
مال.
اي.
ايه فعرفت ما تسوي ميوت.
لا انا ما اقدر يعني انتبه على تعليقاتكم وانا داطي المحاضرة، لا لازم اغلق
ايوه
الاصوات مالتكم.
تمام.
نعم، حتى لا يصير ارباك للمحاضرة، لانه زملائك يسمعون المحاضرة، هم اكو طلاب يفهمون اللغة الانجليزية، يجوز حضرتك يعني شوية ضعيف باللغة الانجليزية، زملائك يسمعون المحاضرة بصورة مستمرة ويجوز يفتهموها، فما نريد نربك المحاضرة. نهاية المحاضرة احنا مستعدين نسمع اي شيء انت ان شاء الله تطرحه، وممكن اشرح لك اياه، وممكن نضيف بعض الصور، بعض الاشياء ممكن نعلق عليها، او نترك اذا تقدر تسجل ملاحظاتك، وممكن بالمختبر تنطرح الاسئله ونشرحها بصوره تفصيليه اكثر حتى ما ناخذ وقت المحاضره.
تمام تمام.
اشكرك نور، بارك الله فيك. براء.
السلام عليكم دكتور.
عليكم السلام ورحمه الله.
دكتور احنا مو مشكلة إذا تريد تغلق الصوت من بداية المحاضرة بالنهاية نسألك، مو مشكلة، بس يعني حتى تشرح لنا على الصور أو شوية يعني مصطلحات، خلي بالإنجليزي مصطلحات إنجليزية، بس شوية بالعربي مثلا شو نسوي مثلا هاي البير وين نحفور الهاي، يعني بالعربي شوية
عملي،
ترجمة يعني.
هذا عملي براء.
هو يعني حتى بالنظري هسه عندنا احنا السلايدات
اي
دكتور، ولو زحمة عليك يعني
اي.
تقدر تشرح لنا شوي بالعربي، نريد حتى نسترسل وياك عن نفتهم، يعني كل شيء ما جاي نفتهم والله، يعني ما نلحق حتى على السرية يعني، وبالانجليزي ما جاي نفتهم يعني اغلب
والله انا
الطلاب
مو
هيك.
سريع، شو انا اعتبر نفسي كلش بطيء يعني، لانه اللهجه مالتي يعني لهجه مثل ما نقول انجليزيه عربيه، مو 100% يعني مو انجليزي اني
بس
ولا
لان انجليزي
امريكي.
كله دكتور، لا بس لان
انجليزي
انجليزي
عربي عراقي، انجليزي عراقي زين.
نحتاج
مع
شوي
ذلك
ترجمة دكتور،
ها
ترجمة نحتاج ترجمة شوي
زين، هسه
يعني.
تختار لي في السلايد من السلايدات اللي
والله يا
تحس
دكتور
نفسك ما عرفته، اشرح لك اياها
يعني
هسه
صراحة،
بالمستوى الجديد.
صراحة يعني ما عرفت يعني ما كذا، ما عرفت اني ارجع شوي شوي يعني افصلهم، يعني بدي اترجمهم لان ما عرفت
اقرا
بالانجليزي يعني
المحاضره مره
مصطلحات جديدة
ثانيه،
استوهجت
ارجع،
علينا.
انا راح انشر
إيه
لكم اياها ان شاء الله، هذا التسجيل مال المحاضره نفسها راح انشر لكم اياها ان شاء الله على الموقع
دكتور، بس
ونشوف
نحتاج شوي ترجمة دكتور، نحتاج يعني، ما والله ما نقدر يعني، نعاني من اللغة الإنجليزية يعني، ذاك الإنجليزي يعني أغلب الدكاترة هسه يعني يشرحون لنا شوي عربي، بس المصطلحات الإنجليزية أوكي خليها إنجليزي مو مشكلة، أشياء مصطلحات إنجليزية مثلا، بس البير يعني أنت تحكي مثلا على البير أو تحكي على السن أو شيء يعني أريد شوي بالعربي يعني.
يمكن اول مره راح اقولها لطلاب من طلابي، انا صار لي فتره طويله ادرس طلاب، اذا اشرح بالعربي زين بعد ما اقدر
نعم
احتمال
دكتور.
ارجع للانجليزي، مو بسهوله ارجع للانجليزي، فاذا ما استرسل بالانجليزي يعني تخرب المحاضره مالتي، تخرب، ما اقدر اقمز بين العربي والانجليزي بصراحه يعني. انا اقول لك هاي الطريقه، بعض الاساتذه اذا هم يشرحوا لك بهذه الطريقه فهو محاضرته اصلا عربي ويطعمها بالمصطلحات الانجليزيه، هو اصلا محاضرته
لا
عربي. مع اعتذاري لجميع الاساتذه اخواني الاعزاء، انا
نعم
احكي
دكتور،
انجليزي
بس
اي ما
جاي
اقدر اقمص
نعاني والله، جاي
بالعربي
نعاني
مثلا.
دكتور يعني،
ها
ما جاي نقدر نفتهم، ما جاي نقدر نفتهم، جاي نعاني يعني من اللغة الإنجليزية يعني، إذا كلها إنجليزي هيك يعني، أغلب الطلاب
مو
جاي.
مشكله انا احاول قدر المستطاع، احاول ان بس مو بسهوله، ترى مو بسهوله.
اكيد دكتور، بس يا ريت والله يعني تكون بالعربي شويه
عندك
حتى
عندك
نقدر
في
نفتهم.
نقطه معينه يعني ما عرفت لها، اعيد السلايدات اللي ما
لا لا دكتور، يعني هي يعني من جاي ان شاء الله المحاضره كلها شوي يعني انه فيها ترجمه تصير
خل
على
احاول
السلايد يعني، بس مو كلها
انا
بالعربي.
لازم اعلم نفسي على طرح محاضره بهذه الطريقه. خلينا نشوف.
اي والله دكتور، اي
لازم
والله دكتور،
تتكرر،
حتى نقدر
ملاحظاتكم
نفتهم.
تتكرر كل محاضره. نعم. اوكي
شكرا
يلا.
دكتور.
اوكي
دكتور
بارك
شكرا.
الله. اشكر
شكرا
محمد.
دكتور. عفوا دكتور.
علي. اوكي علي، اسمعك علي.
السلام عليكم دكتور.
عليكم السلام.
عفوا دكتور، أنا صارت عندي مشكلة ما أدري
بالنت؟ اي.
لا مو بالنت، هو يعني ما يدخل بالزوم يعني بالنهاية. هسه لما ردت أدخل دخل، حتى يعني دزيتها من عبد الله، يعني ما أدري كانت اكو مشكلة.
نعم.
فالحضور على شنو راح يكون دكتور؟
انا هسه ما غالق الدخول. انت دخلت بعد؟
لا أي استوني دخلت، بس
إيه.
يعني كانت اكو مشكلة بالبداية،
إيه، راح
فعبالي يعني
نعتبرك
الحضور
حاضر، راح نعتبرك حاضر. انت تسجل حضور بعد. انا ما غلقت الروم، يعني الميتنج روم ما غلقته، مفتوح لاي واحد يدخل. يعني حتى بالقاعه إذا لو نحضر محاضره ان شاء الله بالقاعه، اذا نرجع نعود للقاعه، باب المحاضره ما تنغلق الى اخر لحظه. ممكن تدخل اخر لحظه من المحاضره، تسمع لك اخر كلمتين تستفاد منهن في المحاضره. ما عندي منع لحد الان اني. نعم.
صار
سهله علي، سهله. وهذا ان شاء الله المحاضره اذا تم تسجيلها ان شاء الله راح نقدر نحولها على الموقع، وممكن تعاد سماعها. وانا اتمنى تعودون اذانكم على اللغه الانجليزيه، اتمنى. انا راح احاول اجي وياكم على اللغه العربيه. هالمره غيرت شويه، سويت المصطلح اللي هو اعتبرته صعب عليكم وصعب الفهم، حولته على مقطع عربي بنهايه المحاضره. اوكي. تعالوا وياي واجي وياكم شوي شوي الى ان شاء الله المحاضرات الجايه تصير شلون نقول سلسه ومهضومه اكثر ان شاء الله. بارك الله بكم.
ما شاء الله. الله يحفظك.
اكو حد عنده بعد اي استفهام شباب؟ على بركه الله ان شاء الله ننهي محاضرتنا، وان شاء الله نلتقيكم في محاضره جايه. بارك الله بكم.